Famous explorer number 1. Fridtjof Nansen, born on 1861 and died on 1930. Fridtjof Nansen was a Norwegian polymath who devoted the last years of his life to the League of Nations and received the Nobel Peace Prize for his contribution to refugees of the First World War. In his youth, Nansen was a polar explorer, who led the first crossing of the interior of Greenland in 1888. He gained international fame after his North Pole expedition of 1893-96 after reaching a latitude of 86 degrees 14. It was the northernmost region of the Earth anyone had reached at that time. Nansen revolutionized the techniques of polar travel. Subsequent explorers followed the type of clothing, travel equipment, and exploration methods for polar voyages he developed.
Famous explorer number 2. Ferdinand Magellan, born on 1480 and died on 1521. Ferdinand Magellan was a Portuguese navigator and explorer who led one of the most daring voyages of his time during the Age of Discoveries. Magellan undertook, although without completing it because he was killed, what would become the first circumnavigation of the globe. Nevertheless, Magellan was one of the first Europeans to cross the Pacific, and he proved it was possible to sail west for trade in the Indies, as he discovered a passageway through the Americas. This sea passage, Strait of Magellan, named after the explorer that discovered it, is considered the most important crossing between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans.
Famous explorer number 3, Lawrence Oates, 1880 to 1912. Lawrence Oates was a British cavalry officer and later a polar explorer. In 1910 he joined the Terra Nova expedition organized by Robert Falcon Scott for the conquest of the South Pole. However, the British expedition reached the pole only to find that they had been beaten by the Norwegian expedition led by Roald Amundsen, which had planted its flag just 35 days earlier. Exhausted and disappointed, the expedition began to return to base camp in terrible conditions. The first to die was Edgar Evans. Afterwards, Oates fell ill with frostbite. When his team refused to abandon him, Oates entered history with his final words, "I am just going outside and maybe some time."
Famous explorer number 4, Vasca da Gama, 1460 to 1524. He was a Portuguese navigator, famous for being the first European to reach India by sea. After dozens of attempts by sailors to reach India resulting in many shipwrecks and countless deaths, Gama discovered a route around Cape of Good Hope, a rocky promontory on the Atlantic coast of South Africa, that allowed him to reach the Indian Ocean and ultimately reach Calicut, India. Returning to Lisbon, they were greeted as heroes. The Portuguese epic poem As Lusíadas was created to celebrate the discovery. A discovery that allowed Portugal to monopolize the Asia-Europe trade by sea and build the largest commercial and maritime empire of the time, becoming a superpower.
Famous explorer number 5, Edmund Hillary, 1919 to 2008. Sir Edmund Hillary was a New Zealand mountaineer and among the best-known explorers in the world. He owes his fame to his 1953 expedition to Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world. On May 29, Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay reached the top. Hillary was 33 years old when he climbed Mount Everest and described his feat, saying it's like getting to the moon without the help of technology. He was honored for his achievement with the title of knighthood. In further campaigns, Hillary climbed 10 more peaks in the Himalayas. He also reached the South Pole, and later when he explored the North Pole, he became the first person in the world to reach both poles and the highest peak in the world.